Hello there. Welcome once again to CCWE, Chit Chat with Ex-transgender pastor. And today we have an exciting guest, someone I just got to know recently on YouTube. And he's none other than Nicolas Blooms. We want to welcome you, Nicolas Blooms, to this Chit Chat with Ex-transgender pastor. Thank you so much for doing this. And I know that you are 6:30 in the morning. That's pretty crazy early for me. Thank you so much for just saying yes and being awake right now. I hope that you are awake. You have your coffee or something to wake you up. So I'm just
Yeah,
gonna, yep. So I'm going to give Nicholas a few minutes to just introduce himself, who he is, and what he stands for, and what he believes in. Nicholas, go ahead and just introduce yourself.
yeah. Thank you for that introduction. It's 6:30 right now, but I'm not too tired. I usually wake up around 6 a.m. because I love a early morning. I get to hear the birds. I live with 7 dogs right now, so it's just wonderful to wake up to dogs as well. Um, a little bit about me is I'm a soul artist. I am a detransitioner, and yeah, I love all things creativity from the bottom of my heart. I feel like that's what's been suppressed my entire life. Creativity is innate in everyone, and for a long time, the femininity within me was suppressed. And creativity at the core is feminine. It has such movement and flow that needs to be expressed in a feminine way, and that was being suppressed for me to not be able to express. I think through going to art school, I learned a lot about reconnecting with creativity in a way that I didn't realize was possible to the point where I was able to detransition. I think creativity let me out of it as well. I wrote this book called a graphic novel called Trans to Detrans, A Soul Solution, which is a book full of illustrations that I created from my soul. My soul had this yearning to share my story of detransition from, experiencing body dysmorphia from the age of 7 up until a few years ago. And now I don't experience gender dysphoria or body dysmorphia. And I wanted to share the hope and possibility to gender confused folks, detransitioners, and anyone in between to be able to be like, yeah, I guess healing gender dysphoria is totally, totally possible. I don't have to be stuck in this narrative that I need to chop off my body parts. I don't need to be stuck in this narrative that tells me that there's something wrong with me. No, it is an inner world issue that needs to be learned to be cultivated, grounded, and loved.
Thank you so much for that amazing introduction. I actually bumped into you on Shapeshifters video. I'm like a fan of hers, hims, his, hers, they. So I saw you there and I was like, okay. And just like you, I don't call myself a detransitioner. I call myself an ex-transgender. And to a certain extent, there's a difference there. I always like talking about the difference between these two words that people use. And I would like to hear your story, if you don't mind sharing with us your transgender story, how it all got started, like how old were you when you realized or you thought you were trans, and what did you do in the area of transitioning, and why did transition, at what age, and what happened?
I want to start with the age of 7. There was a distinct memory of me pressing my Adam's apple every single day. I really didn't want to tra- um, go through puberty. I had such an awesome singing voice. I would be able to hit the high notes. Everybody was praising me for having such a amazing singing voice. At the same time, I was living in an island called Okinawa, Japan. That's where I grew up. My first language is Japanese. So that island was not welcoming of femininity, and my femininity as well as my flamboyant personality was bullied, made fun of every single day. I was called Okama every single day, which means the F word in America, the gay slur. Like it was every single day for 6 years. So naturally, I didn't know how to stand up for myself. I didn't know how to protect myself. I didn't know how to fight the other bullies. I just took it and started to believe what they had to say. And this belief that there was something wrong with me festered and festered and festered into a wounded belief, eventually guiding me to hate my body. So from there, there was an internal turmoil between hating my masculinity, feeling like, oh my God, my body is betraying me, and also hating my femininity. So everything about myself I hated, but also at the same time, I wanted to preserve the femininity because I loved singing. I loved being flamboyant, but the world didn't want to see me. So the world was telling me I can't be me. So I started to believe that and closing myself off by not talking to people, staying quiet, and basically suppressing myself. That was my adolescence. And when we moved to America around the age of 13, the puberty was going insane, and my hormones were going insane. So pressing on my Adam's apple every day. When I go to bed, I'm like bending my neck so the apple wouldn't, protrude. Body hair would start growing. I'd be so mortified and disgusted. I remember seeing for the first time when I saw the puberty hair growing, I felt so sick. I was like, wow, my body is betraying me. There's something wrong with me. I felt so much shame. On top of that, I was experiencing a lot of sexual, how did you explain it? Like internalized homophobia related to my sexuality as well, because knew I was attracted to boys, but I didn't know how to vocalize that. I didn't know that it was good or bad. I no, I knew it was bad, so I didn't want to tell anybody about it. So all those things festered and developed into a twisted sense of self that there was something wrong with me. I'm unlovable. I'm an abomination. Those feelings developed into body dysmorphia. And from that place, around the age of 15, I started to watch YouTube videos on gender, gender fluid, non-binary. I was getting obsessed with that. And throughout this whole entire time, my parents were not informed about what's going on internally. I didn't feel like sharing ever what was happening in my inner world. I would keep it to myself, keep it a secret. All my thoughts and feelings were just growing and growing and growing without telling a soul. So from that place, as I became super hyper fixated on gender, that became my outlet for, oh, that is the reason why there's something wrong with me. This is my solution to heal. This is my solution to get better. It felt like a light. And the more I fixated on it, the more I started to believe, oh, maybe I'm trans because I hate my body hair. I hate my voice. I hate that I'm a man. I hate that I have to grow up to be a man. Oh, I must be trans. So once that thought came into my head, things started to go downhill. Like I started seeing myself, what would life be like if I was a woman? And visualize um, sexual fantasies of me with men and having a female body part and really enjoying that and wishing that I could sleep with straight men because being a gay man, I was like, I don't want to be a gay man. I hate being a gay man. I don't want anything to do with that. So all those things developed into I am trans, so I need to transition. At the same time, I was thinking of suicide and having lots of feelings of depression. I remember one time I was in the car of the school parking lot during break and just wanting to cry, but not being able to cry because I was just so frustrated and angry and depressed and suicidal that I hated my body. I hated my facial hair. I didn't want to be seen by anybody because I felt so disgusting. One day, I chose to go on Planned Parenthood to get my hormone replacement therapy because I already turned 18 at that point. It was super easy. You can just go on the website and schedule an appointment if you're 18 and then go in for a consultation and talk to a therapist for 30 minutes and tell her what you're feeling, and she'll prescribe you medication, and within 2 weeks then get your medication. That was how quick my process was. They didn't go through my trauma, they didn't go through any sort of medical history to really understand like where I'm coming from. They were super super quick with giving me hormone medication. So that's how I began transition. It was a long process of self-hating, lots of mixed up wounded beliefs that told me that this was the only solution. And a lot of people, like a lot of transgender YouTubers, were promoting, yeah, when you transition, you'll be happier. When you transition, your all these problems will go away. But I would say the same problems existed, but turned into something different. It was like, oh, now I'm not woman enough. I remember when I was on hormones for 3 years, it was a lot more intense. My suicidal ideation was intense. My depression was more intense. And anxiety was off the roots. Like going out in public and talking to people was such a extreme event, it felt like, because my mind was constantly seeking out evidence to why there was something wrong with me. Oh, I'm not woman enough. They're gonna see that I'm a man. They're gonna see that I have an Adam's apple. Oh my God. What if they see my facial hair that's starting to grow a little bit because it's 5 o'clock now, you know? Or does my voice sound woman enough? I don't have breasts. Do they think that I'm a man? All these thoughts were growing and growing and growing to the point where I was like, I can't do this anymore. It was so exhausting waking up every day with those same thoughts. Um, but what had helped me was my spirituality. At some point, I remember being so invested in spirituality that I took a step back from the transgender ideology. It was so helpful to just disconnect and pull out the earplugs of gender and transition videos so that I could just focus on what's going on internally. I never was told that feelings are fast, they never last. I was never told that I can heal my inner world. I can change the way I see myself. I can change the when I change the inner perception of myself, the world transforms. Like I never really understood what it meant to heal myself internally. I was always taught, it felt like I just had to fix the external world in order to heal myself, but that wasn't the case. And I think that's where the transgender movement is lacking, is learning to love the love yourself without needing to chop off the body parts, because
Right.
chopping off your body parts is such an extreme act and it's very traumatizing to the body. But I'm not here to make anybody wrong, because if you're an adult, you're allowed to do what you want. But for the kids, it's should never happen.
How
Um,
old are you now? Sorry to cut it. How old are you now, Nicholas?
I am 23. I'm about to turn
23.
24 in a few months. Yes.
All right. So you said that you were on HRT for 3 years from 18, right? 18, 19, 20. So how long have you been the transitioner? How long has it been since being a transitioner?
I
About 2 years, 3 years?
um I stopped transitioning around, I want to say right before my birthday, September 2022.
I'm a September baby too.
Oh,
Yeah,
Virgos.
Virgos, that's right. And you mentioned Japan. So are you like half Japanese or
Yeah,
what's your
absolutely.
ethnicity?
I'm half Jap. Oh, I want to say Okinawan because I mean that's a whole different dialogue. But the mainland Japanese people don't really like the Okinawans because I mean Japan took over Okinawa because Okinawa was its own country, its own thing. And yeah, I grew up there. My family, I have a lot of extended family there. I haven't been in so many years, and I want to go back, but I just haven't had the chance. So it's been interesting to live in two different cultures and see how different they are, but seeing the familiarities as well. Because, you know, Japan's more of a conservative, modest
Mm,
country versus America is more loud and obnoxious, but also all about independence, whereas Japan is not. Japan's all about conformity. So, you know, you could imagine me, like, imagine a kid that is so loud and bright and just sees the world as this fantastical world, and then and this kid is entered into a very self-suppressed, we have to all look the same way sort of world. The kid is going to be ostracized, made wrong, and
mm,
treated horribly. So I think I'm grateful for the experience. I don't think I'd ever want to do it again, but I'm grateful for the
mm,
experience because I learned a lot, and I don't think I'd be able to be where I am with the
mm,
experiences I've had, you know, because I feel like with even the darkest parts of us or the darkest experiences can allow us to find our potential.
mm.
And I mean, even moving here to Arizona, it's been an intense process, but I've learned to cultivate self-belief and determination to continue on because there's only self-belief at the end of the day. Like no one can do it for you. You have to do it for yourself.
Right, that's right. So you mentioned Japan. I was in Japan about 2 weeks ago. I was there on holiday. Yeah.
Jealous.
Yeah, and just like you, I'm actually half English and half Malaysian. So we will be called as Eurasian. Have you heard of that word? Eurasian, but you will not be Eurasian because you are. We will. I think you'll be known as
Yes.
Pan-Asian. I'm not sure. I mean, how they describe you. In Malaysia, we are known as Eurasian. My dad is English. My mom is Malaysian. So yeah, half white and
Gotcha.
half Asian. So I can
Yeah.
see why, you look unique. When I first saw you, say, okay, I was trying to figure out what is his ethnicity. You have this unique look, which is really gorgeous. And I was wondering, what is he? It's like now I know you're half Japanese. So do you speak
Yeah.
Japanese?
Yes, I do. I
You do.
speak it
Oh wow.
fluently. I mean, I grew up in Okinawa for 6 years, and that was my, you know, early developmental years. It was from the age
Mm,
of six to 13, around there. So,
mm,
you know, that's all through grade school. I mean, I have issues writing and reading because I don't do it every day, but I can have a decent
mhm.
conversation. I've surprised a lot of people in America when I start speaking Japanese to other Japanese people. They're like, "Where did you come from?" It's great. I love turning
But
heads.
when you say you're Japanese, I can tell you look a little bit Japanese. I can tell the Japanese part of you. Now I can tell after you revealing that. Okay, let's go back to
Mm.
something more serious. You mentioned that we do not have to transition to overcome gender dysphoria and what you have overcome. And I'm so glad to hear that you have overcome gender dysphoria, body dysmorphia. Thank God for that. I'm really happy for you. I've also heard this all my life. The only way for a person to overcome gender dysphoria is basically going to transitioning. That's what I've heard. Yeah, and of course, as I'm sure you know that I'm a pastor, I'm a Christian, and yeah, deep into spirituality. Of course, my spirituality is biblical spirituality. I think I don't think, are you a Christian? You're not a Christian, are you? Are you a Christian? You
No, I'm
No,
not, but I do
you're
enjoy
not. Okay.
listening to certain stuff, but I'm not religious at all.
Okay. Okay. I mean, there's two types of Christianity, religious and spiritual. I'm not a religious type. I'm spiritual. But anyway, let's not go there. That will be a different topic. So as a Christian, I believe that transitioning is not the only, because I've lived that life. I social transition from the time I was about 4 years old all the way to just about seven, just before my sister was born. And I have a long story how I ended up with gender dysphoria because my parents wanted me to be a girl. things like that. And I struggle with severe gender dysphoria. And I can resonate with a lot of things that you shared earlier in regards to how you hated your masculinity and you couldn't express your femininity. I totally get that because I went through that myself. So going back to what I'm trying to say is that I don't believe that transitioning is the only way out of overcoming gender dysphoria, because I've overcome my gender dysphoria, but mine is through loving myself, just as you mentioned it as well. But of course, going deeper in it would be my relationship with God, for me. And besides that, like, okay, going back to what I've known all this while you're like something new I'm hearing tonight. You're not a Christian, but you have overcome gender dysphoria, because I've been asked, can anyone overcome gender dysphoria without being a believer? Because I've never met anyone. So you're the first one I'm meeting, actually. And I'm glad to meet the someone, because I get asked. Because this is what I preach, because I don't think anyone can overcome, because I wouldn't have overcome gender dysphoria successfully without my faith and my relationship with my God, with Jesus Christ. But yeah, it's interesting to hear that actually, there are other ways of overcoming gender dysphoria. And yeah, I think people should definitely hear your story should be out there, because gender dysphoria is definitely something human beings can overcome. And I totally agree with this chopping off your body parts, and especially children. I also, just like you, I think that adults have the right to do whatever they like. That's not our business. Yeah, of course, if they come to us, we can always advise them. But children is a big no. Yeah. So how? What's your you are in a country where they are going forth to actually promote children transitioning. So you are in a tough spot. You don't believe in that. So are you hated by the people who's aware of your stance? I mean, how you facing all that? That must be crazy for you. Yeah. Can you
It's not
share?
been
Yeah.
it's not been terrible. I would say I've had like people from high school and college lecture me on Instagram, or like they DM me and be like, what you're doing is wrong. Or I have like random people in my comments of Instagram and stuff being like, oh my God, what the hell are you talking about? Blah 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 blah. That's just the nonsense that I can't think of right now, because I don't create space to respond to them, because they're not here to listen. They're not here to get curious. They just want to make me wrong and be superior over me, because they feel like they have the truth, which they don't. I would say they're so wounded and traumatized, or just they're not regulating their nervous system properly to be able to have a proper conversation. My experience to healing gender dysphoria was a personal journey, but also through a mentorship experience. Like my friend Kim O, who's a relational soul coach, she is an intuitive, as well as she makes these workbooks called What is Ego, Love Cures Anxiety. She teaches about Buddhism, but also mixes in Christianity. She believes that Buddhism and Christianity have their overlap, so she teaches that. So she really helped me through my detransition. She gave me a grounded structure to be able to navigate the inner world, because a lot of folks, including myself, have been ungrounded in their sense of self. If your wounded beliefs saying like there's something wrong with you are controlling you and navigate are the phrases to navigate your worldview, that is super limited and not true. Like there isn't anything wrong with me. I have a soul that is divine, that is pure love, joy. And because I believe in that, I don't need to believe in the other beliefs, because the other beliefs are just wounded inner children that need to be loved. The
Mhm.
moments that I was traumatized were moments that I lacked love. And when there
Mm,
is lacking in love is when a wounded inner child is created. And those wounded inner children basically are in the front seat, in the driver's seat, controlling life, whereas
mm,
our soul needs to be in the driver's seat controlling our lives, because we're not taught that. I had to relearn how to speak to myself, speak to the parts of me that are feeling afraid, feeling shameful, feeling depressed. And those are just wounded inner children that need to be loved, be talked to, and to be seen and understood. I feel like we
mm,
lack, as human beings, we give out compassion to other people so easily, but ourselves.
mm,
That's been my self-love journey, is giving love to those wounded inner children, daily. It's been a lot of practice of grounding and coming back to my body because I remember there were lots of days where I felt like I was so dissociated that I was floating out of my body, seeing my body from outside of myself, and my vision would be so weird because I wasn't fully in my body. I feel like we are at our core spirit beings, like beings of spirits of light. And if that's not fully integrated into our bodies because we want our minds are telling us to escape the body, there's something wrong with our bodies, it's creating disassociation and detachment and wanting to escape. So that creates ungroundedness. And through my practices of dancing and putting my feet on the grass, moving my body, taking deep breaths, and really creating that into a practice has brought me back to my body. I've had people tell me, "Oh, you're so ungrounded right now." But now that I've done those practices and come to my body to regulate my nervous system and build a resilient nervous system, because that's what it is at the end of the day, is are you able to regulate your nervous system to the point where you can realize that you're in a flight or freeze response and go through it with ease and compassion and love for yourself so that your nervous system relaxes and you can keep going. It's learning to unlearn the old patterns of which you've been being for so long because of your trauma and creating new ways so that you can feel safe in those new ways. Because
Mm.
for a long time, the body and the mind have been feeling so disassociated with the traumatic experience that now it's learning to be, the soul or the adult parent and give love to those parts because I didn't get that love as a child.
Mm. So we're going to we're going to pause for a moment because I'm going to play a video of you and having a discussion with Shapeshifter. So we're going to do just that right now. Let's take a break.
Like they're not supposed to transition, they're not supposed to go on hormones, anything like that. And the small percentage of influencers I feel like have influenced so many people to do so because the trans influencers are like, this is your option, this is the best way to heal, this is the only way, chop off your body part, get your taco, and have an amazing life. Like, I was just so disgusted.
We wanted to rate those influencers on their passability from 1 to 10, just how well they pass in society as women. I'm just kidding. We're not going to rate them on passability because
We're not?
that would
I was totally gonna be like, oh my gosh, she looks like a little boy.
oh wow.
That's fun. Okay, I mean, let's
So
talk.
bad.
I mean, I like Shapeshifter, you know. You had the privilege of, I mean, I interact with her a little bit, or with him, I'm like lost a little bit with Shapeshifter's pronouns. What are your pronouns, Nicholas? Can you share with us?
Oh, all I want to say is I'm a biological man. So if the biological man is a he, him, that's what I am.
Lovely.
I
I
don't
love
deal with the
that.
pronoun stuff. I don't believe in it. I don't believe in non-binary. I mean, you can
Amazing.
express yourself in any way, but there's no such thing as they, them.
Okay, fantastic. I mean, we can speak about those things here in Malaysia freely because I'm not sure if you are aware that Malaysia, the country that I'm in, is predominantly a Muslim country, you know. So,
Mhm.
and with that said, that is actually a blessing for us. There are four people, you know, when you say you are an ex-trans, they are like, okay, wow, good job. So they are unlike where you come from. You know, you say you're ex-trans, when you say you're a detransitional, wow, you're asking for trouble. So with that, I would like to I mentioned this earlier when we began, you know, you call yourself detransitioner. I call myself ex-transgender. And my reason for not calling myself detransitioner because the understanding of a detransitioner is that they've made a mistake. They've made a mistake. They are not even trans to begin with. They went forth to transition and now they regret it. For me, I don't think my status as a transgender in the past was a mistake. I was a real transgender and I've overcome my transgenderism by overcoming gender dysphoria, and today I'm an ex-transgender. So there's a bit of difference there because I don't like calling myself the transitioner because I don't want the world to think that I made a mistake. But I believe I was trans, but I've overcome all that. So What's your take on that? Do you think that the same thing, detransitioners, ex-transgenders? I mean, how do you see the difference? Do you see any difference in those two words?
I didn't know ex-transgender was a phrase. I mean, I guess this is just kind of the same thing with, what information I had available and just using that language was just detransition because once I started getting obsessed about detransition through watching Shapeshifters video, um, that's when I started to be like, oh, maybe I'm a detransitioner. So that was the language I had. I think detransitioner to me just, I mean, doesn't mean a mistake or regret for me. It just gives me an archetype of like, okay, this is an experience of someone that went through transition
Mhm.
and back to their biological sex. And that's what
Okay.
it just represents to me. It's just a language to make it clear for me.
Okay. So you said that you transitioned for 3 years, right? So what would be like that ultimate wake up call that told you I shouldn't be continuing this? If yeah, what would that be? That light bulb moment for you? What would that
So
be?
there were three waves of doubt, I would call them. Like the first wave, I remember being like, "Oh my God, did I make the right choice?" I didn't even go to like a professional gender person to tell me that I'm trans and I have gender dysphoria. Should I be transitioning? And there was another wave of doubt that was saying, um, I was reading this book called The Power of the Subconscious Mind at the time. It's all about what the subconscious mind does and what it can do. And then our subconscious is controls 80 to 95% of our daily lives. So the subconscious stores our information we're experiencing throughout the day, our thoughts and beliefs. And it was like the book really opened my eyes to, wow, I can change my beliefs. And that made me shift to, wait, am I actually trans? Are these thoughts about transition really like, can I heal my thoughts about transition? Can I heal my mind about whether or not I need to take the hormone medication? And I also had thoughts about if I'm healthy physically, why is it that I need to take 2 pills in order to be happy or healthy? It didn't make
Mm,
sense to me because it's not like I had a physical issue, it was just a mental issue. So I'm like,
correct.
why did I need to do this? It was just a wounded belief that was controlling me to
Mm,
think that, oh, I need to do this. But that was creating dissonance in my mind. I was like, this
Mm,
doesn't make sense. But I wanted to push it aside because it was just so much to deal with. I didn't want to deal with it because, transition comes with detransition can sometimes come with a lot of fear because
mm,
you need to admit to yourself, wow, I made a mistake and have
mm,
to tell all the friends and family in your life, I'm going back to my original birth name. And that's tough. It's not easy to be able to do. So I think
mm,
that was also at the back of my mind. There was another one where I remember I wanted to live off grid. My thoughts were saying, if I were to live off grid, like, would I be taking hormone? I want to live a natural life, but if I take hormones, it's not really natural. Can I be a bearded woman? The the wounded ego within me really just wanted to hold on to the transgender identity because
mm,
it was too scary to let it go. It was so as much as it was creating so much pain in my life. I remember so much heart pain like every single day when I woke up. It was like my heart was being wringed out like a towel.
mm,
And that was the physical, emotional pain that I was feeling every single day. Now I don't feel it anymore because I've healed it. But at the end of the day, it was just a lot to hold on to. And the last doubt that knocked me over was this person in the new age. I was super into the new age. Not now I'm not super into it anymore because a lot of it doesn't resonate. But there's this one person that I was super into saying transgenderism is an agenda pushed by the elite. People in the higher up positions are pushing this so that they can control the population. Like I was super into the conspiracy theory stuff, and which I can kind of believe and see that might be true. So I was
Mm,
like, oh my God, if this person that I trust and love listening to is saying that transgenderism isn't real and that it's pushed
mm,
by the people in the higher ups, then I'm like, oh my God, maybe that's me too. Maybe I made a mistake. Maybe I'm not supposed to be trans. So that blew me open to watch detransitioners and research more to the point where I was like, yeah, I am not trans. Shapeshifter was the one that actually inspired me to detransition because I saw his video on Blair White's the Blair White Project. I loved listening to his story, and his story was so similar to mine that I was
mm,
like, hold on, this is internalized homophobia. This is insane. I didn't know that was a thing that could make me transition.
mm.
I was beginning to self-reflect deeply about my trauma, but not in the way that I was doing transition. It was everything else except why I transitioned. I was almost
Mm.
dancing around it. So once I started watching detransitioner videos, I was like, okay, now it's time to self-reflect within myself and see what's been suppressed that needs to be expressed. The moment I asked myself that, everything came out from the fact that, you know, oh, I'm not trans for hating my voice. It's just a belief that's there that's telling me that I hate my voice. That's not actually the core of who I am. The core of who I am would love on the part of myself that hates my voice. That's who I am. And that was for everything, like my voice, my body hair, everything that I hated about myself just needed to be expressed so that it could receive love and be seen. So it felt so good to just finally admit that to myself and be like, yeah, I don't have to take medication anymore. This isn't who I am. It was like so much weight was lifted off my chest that I felt so much more free.
Wow. So going back to, I mean, you might not be, I mean, this is your past, 3 years of HRT. What did that do to you? I mean, physically, emotionally, mentally, what changes you went through being on HRT for 3 years? Can you share with us?
Yeah, so for 3 years on medication, I said earlier, the anxiety, depression, and suicide ideation got worse. It was to the point where I didn't have social anxiety beforehand, before taking medication. On medication, it was way intense and it was intensified to the point where I didn't want to talk to people. It was my body would be so freaked out to be around anybody that it would create
Mm,
the belief of the belief of there's something wrong with me would be triggered to the point where, oh, I can't talk, I can't hold a conversation.
mm.
Um, and the other thoughts of I'm not woman enough would show up alongside of everything else. Another thing was um my sexual organs, they would shrink and my libido was just gone. My sexual drive was completely dead. I mean, the doctors or the endocrinologist would say your sex drive will decrease, but they didn't ever explain what that would be like or experience like. And it felt like now I'm seeing it like, wow, that was completely like an experiment. They don't really understand what's fully going
Mm,
on because they didn't describe the whole entire experience of what I would be experiencing. When I would try to pleasure myself, it would be so painful to be touching my body parts like that.
mm.
It would also be not fun to once I would release. Um, it would just be like I just sneezed. Like it was just nothing pleasurable. There was no climax. I'm sorry if you hear the dogs. They're going off
Okay.
crazy right now.
It's okay.
So that was kind
Wow.
of the big things that were really, really intense for me was, wow, I
Mm,
can't have any sexual experiences anymore. I'm feeling mentally ill. I feel like I gained a lot of weight as well. My body parts would be like the fat would be redistributed to my chest. I still have fat on my chest area that I've been trying to work out to not have it exist anymore, but it's kind of been difficult just because it is fat and we'll see if that what happens within the next few years. But yeah, it's just been there. My nipples have been enlarged, so I don't think they'll ever be small as they were before transition, but
okay.
that's kind of the main sort of things. Oh, and the one thing that was also weird and I never heard before was before transition, my hair was super, super curly. But then while I was transitioning, my hair turned super straight. There was no waves, and I was just like, wow, I miss my hair. And after detransitioning for almost 2 years now, my hair is starting to have more texture and become natural again.
Mm. I'm always fascinated with those who went through HRT because as I mentioned earlier, I only transitioned socially as a child, and then and I'm in my 50s now, so I was like, that's like many, many years ago. So when I transitioned socially, it was in the 70s. And I don't think it would have ever been possible for me to transition medically with a strict mother that I had. She would kill me. So I was presenting androgynous. No, they call it non-binary today, but I felt called myself a girl. I wanted to be a girl, not non-binary, but presented myself more androgynously. So I'm going to show you a picture of me when I was a transgender in the past. Yeah, take a look. That's me.
Yeah, I remember seeing the photo you sent me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what made
So
you want to, if this was like 40 years ago for you, maybe like 30 years, I don't know how to do the
30
math.
years, 30 years. Yeah.
Um, what made you want to do interviews like this
Yeah.
if that was like such a long time ago?
Yeah. So I began to overcome my struggles as a transgender woman as well as a gay man in the 90s. All right. Then in 1999, after graduating from Bible school and everything, I decided that I want to go full time in ministry, to serve the Lord my God. And I sensed in my spirit that God was telling me to touch the lives and journey with those who are having struggles like what I had in the past. So that's how it all began. Yeah, so I've been doing this for many years. I've been doing this since 1999. As in, when I say this, not just doing interviews, but I journey with people. I planted a church. I have a church in Malaysia, where LGBTQ people can just be part of the church. Ex-LGBTQ people can be part of the church. Doesn't matter, So yeah, so I've been doing this for many years together with my wife. I'm married. I've been married for this year would be 28 years. Yeah, 28 years this year. I got two young adults children. My children are about your age, so yeah, it's amazing to yeah, to if I went through HRT, if I went through surgeries, I don't think I would be the person I am today. I'm blessed that I didn't go through all that. That I thank God for who I am today. Really thank God for that. God protected me. That's what I believe. I have friends my age today who are detransitioners, but with a vagina and things like that, and a lot of them, wish they didn't go through what they went through. So yeah, so I thank God for who I am today. And talking about marriage, do you see yourself being married in the future, or even let's go deeper. What's your sexual orientation now? I'm demisexual. I'm sure you heard of that, right? I have a demisexual orientation. I'm sure if you believe in that, but that's my experience. I came from having a homosexual orientation. This is many years ago, and in my early 30s, I developed a demisexual orientation. And my wife is also a demisexual. So you want to share a little bit about, your thoughts on marriage, in general, or for yourself, or even if you don't mind, your sexual orientation, what would that be?
I mean, I feel like if you can't tell that I'm gay, I feel like I don't know what else to tell you. I'm just so feminine. So I'm like, I feel like that's kind of like the first thing you see is like, oh, he's gay. So I don't know about marriage right now. I'm like, for a long time when I was experiencing and being in my wounds, that I was like, oh my God, I want to be loved. I want a guy to fall in love with me. And I lost my virginity at 17 to a 26-year-old man because I was wanting to be loved. I went on Grinder, the gay hookup app, and was like, oh my God, I want to be loved. I want to know what sex is like. And I just gave it away to some ugly man. So have had a long and extreme relationship with sex and my sexuality that now I'm like, I just want to enjoy being myself. I don't want to enjoy being by myself. I love spending time with myself. I dated a guy 2 months ago and he was in his 30s. Just, I realized over time, I was like, I want to be single. I don't want to be spending time with somebody. I enjoy my time alone to the point where I'm like, man, he's taking my Sundays. My Sundays are like days I just want to be by myself, relax. But now I have to give it away to this guy. This is nonsense. This is crazy. What am I doing? Because for a long time I didn't enjoy spending time alone. And now that I do is I don't want to give it away. So my spirit's been telling me, just take it easy. Spend time with yourself. This is a lifetime. This is a gift of solitude. Enjoy that. Because if I'm spending time with somebody weekly when I can spend it with myself, I don't get to do the self-reflection. I don't get to read a book. I don't get to do the art, because I love painting. I do a lot of digital drawings as well as paintings. What I what I love doing is I look at someone's astrological birth chart and then I sit with them and I basically draw their soul's expression. Everybody can have a level of, you know, disassociation with themselves. So I feel like they need to realize their gifts, their strengths, and that could be as simple as understanding who you are. And I can do that in a painting. So that's kind of been what I've been practicing versus looking for a relationship, going out and dating. It just seems so exhausting to me that I'm like, I don't feel a drive. I just feel like right now I want to be single. Maybe in my 30s, I want to be with somebody, but I do believe in monogamy. I don't think there is such a thing as um a polyamorous relationship. I mean, guess if it works for you, it works for you. But for me, I'm like, if I were to date somebody, I want to be tied down to one person and be committed to each other.
You mentioned quite a few times that you're into spirituality and all that. Let's as a pastor, I'm curious, what's your experience, or if there's any, in relations to Christianity? Have you had anyone speaking to you about the Lord Jesus Christ and inviting you to church? Is there any experience like that you have had in the past, or even
Um,
having right now? I don't know.
I've had random strangers come up to me and start talking about Jesus, um, which can be nice, but at the same time, I'm like, sometimes I'm busy and I'm like, I don't have time for you. Or Um, there's this one time I went to go see a intuitive and she really believes in Jesus Christ. So it was like a past life reading and she was giving me a reading about my past life and she was like, "Oh my God, I guess she calls him Yeshua or Jesus. Jesus is here." I was like, as soon as she said that, I started crying. And I didn't have a personal relationship with Jesus ever. So it was just like really cool to see that maybe he's here with me and he's guiding me and stuff like that. But I don't pray to him. I don't pray to anybody. I'm just like, if I need to pray or speak out loud, I just speak with my soul. Like that's my deepest connection is all I know for sure is I have a soul. Like that's all I know for sure. And maybe there is a God or a universe. And sometimes when I'm feeling crazy, I'm like, okay, God, could you please guide me or something like that? Like I just feel stressed or I just need to speak clearly right now because my mind's going crazy right now. So I just need to be free and express.
Mm.
Or, I just take a deep breath and really feel into my heart because that's where the soul is. The soul is seated in the heart. And I just close my eyes maybe 15 minutes a day and just really breathe into my heart and really connect because my heart is what guides me, not my mind, nothing else but my heart. And I feel like that's been my deepest relationship is with my soul because my soul is truth, love, and joy. I've learned to access joy in ways I didn't get to experience for 8 years because of this gender stuff. I learned to explore joy in a way that I've never done before. Like I tried out so many different things so that I could create joy within myself. Like imagine if your brain was so used to being experiencing life in one way that experiencing joy was almost like building muscle so that joy could come out freely. Like even listening to music and moving my body in a specific way is such a spiritual connection for me because I get to use my imagination and creativity. That's also a big part of my spirituality is just being with myself and painting and really moving my body as well. I feel like every time I close my eyes and take a deep breath is such a beautiful connection with my body and my spirit.
Yeah, I watched some of your videos and it's exciting. The way you express yourself, your art and your movements. I've seen that on the Instagram and like it's beautiful. But for me, I would say that I when I was around your age, I broke up with my last boyfriend. And I mean, I struggled since I was 4 years old, okay, with gender identity, with my gender identity, and with broken relationship with my parents. And as you mentioned, similar to you, I never felt love, and all that. So I struggled. I was raped when I was 19. I even was in sex work for a bit, and it was a crazy, crazy life until I was 24, and I thought that I met my Mr. Right. Going to marry him and live happy ever after. And then he cheated on me with another guy. So that's where I just decided I don't want that anymore. That's not going to enough is enough. 4 years old to 20 years old, is enough for me to give a shot. So I don't want to waste another year. So that's where I gave that life up. I gave him up. I gave this idea of being happy ever after with a man up. That was 1994. And then when I became available, that's how, I was at the right place at the right time, and God sent his servants, and yeah, and I gave my life to Jesus since I was 25. And I would say, if not for Jesus Christ, I mean, you have your own spirituality, but I'm just sharing my spirituality now, is that without Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior, I wouldn't be who I am today. I would not exchange Jesus for anything. I love my wife, I love my children, but I love Jesus more. And they know that. To me, Jesus is alive, and I've tasted his love, as the word of God says. His love is better than life. And that's not just some nice saying, but I've tasted it. No man, I've gave many men chances to love me, but no man could love me the way this man, his name is Jesus. And tonight, as a brother, I would tell you that this Jesus loves you too. And I'm going to pray that, for you to taste this man's love, and that's the same thing. That's the exact thing a lady called Jenny told me in 1995. When I went to her, I said, Jenny, I broke up with Benjamin, and I'm done. I'm done with that. She says, the man that you have been looking for, he has been waiting. I was like, what? What are you talking about? This craziness. And then, but because she was a friend long before I decided to break up with Benjamin. She was there while I was trans, I was gay. She loved me and embraced me, just for who I was. I trusted her, so I said, okay, I'll give this Jesus of yours a chance. And that happened in 1995. And got sold out. So I'm not like this really religious fanatic. I've experienced this relationship with Jesus Christ. Yeah. So, and I'm praying for you that I mean, I know that you're in a good place. I thank God for the beautiful experiences that you are having and going to have. Yeah. And because of time, it's good. It's about we took 1 hour to chat like this, and we're going to end here. I would like to ask you if there's any last words that you would like to share with anyone who's going to watch this video. Precious Nicholas Bloom.
I would say, believe in yourself. I would say this phrase is such an awesome phrase for hope. Healing gender dysphoria is totally possible. I would say, see where that takes you, because healing gender dysphoria is a personal issue, it's an internal issue. And if it might help you, like I wrote this graphic novel to really help you see and experience what it's like to go through gender dysphoria, but also what it's like to intimately experience self-love. I've had people say and review back to me, wow, it's like literally having an experience with someone with self-love. And people get to see self-love and fresh eyes. It's not about pampering yourself. It's not about going to get your nails done. That's not self-love, that's self-care. That's different than, learning to look at yourself in a way that you can see beauty. Oh, oh my God, my face looks ugly. No, there is beauty there. That's kind of where I stand on everything is there. Everything comes back to the mind. Are you taking care of your mind? Are you taking care of your physical health? Are you taking care of all these things that you need to, in order to regulate yourself? Because if you can't regulate yourself, you can't live life. And if you can't live life, you can't thrive. So that's what I would say. You can do this and you're amazing. And if you need help, I'm also a gender shaman, which just means I'm a life coach for people that are gender confused or experiencing gender dysphoria and wanting to detransition. I am a life coach. I'm certified. So if you want to be guided by me, I'm also here. So feel free to message me on Instagram or email me at Nicolas Blooms. There is 3 O's in the Blooms at gmail.com. So that's what I have for you.
So you are on Instagram, you are on you have a YouTube channel, right?
Yep.
Are you
And
on TikTok as well? Are you on
I'm
TikTok?
on TikTok, yeah, but it's the same videos as Instagram.
All right. Okay. So I hope that the right people will just reach out to you after watching this. So Nicholas Blooms, thank you so much for taking time to speak with me, to chit chat with the ex-transgender pastor. You're amazing. There's a lot of insights that you have shared, especially for a young person like you. You're so confident and you know who you are, you know who you want to be, and all the best to your journey. Thank you so much,
Yeah.
Nicholas. Bye bye.
Could I share one more thing?
Oh, yes. Go ahead.
So I also want to believe in children too. Like children need to believe in their resilience because I didn't get to have that experience of believing in myself that nothing outside of me is like, feelings are fast, they don't last, or like learning to love my traits from such a young age. Like I've also illustrated and co-created these children's books that teach kids to build their inner resilience so that they can go through any sort of traumatic
Mm.
experience, any sort of pain. And it's on Amazon if you guys are wanting it. It's called I Want Prickles Too and Row the Rabbit Lost His Happy Hop. So go check that out as well.
Thank you so much. Fantastic. Thanks, Nicholas. Thank you for sharing us with your books as well. Keep writing, and I love your art. See them on Instagram. Bye bye. God bless.
Bye.
Take care of you.